Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirsty Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts.
Welcome back. How's everyone's week been? I've been drowning in deadlines. What about you, Kirsty?
Yeah, I've been busy on deadline too. Signature, we've got Signature Luxury Travel and Style going to print next week, so it's all hands on deck. And Vacations and Travel hit newsstands actually last week. So grab a copy and you'll see my story about the Norway trip that I keep going on about, which feels like a lifetime ago now. But gosh, I have to say that was just one of the most incredible, special places I've ever been. You just, everywhere you go, you're constantly dwarfed by fjords. And I don't think I've ever seen so many waterfalls in such a small space in my life. It was just, yeah, truly a really remarkable place.
Do you know, I've got a story in that issue too, and that is about my women's only trip to Turkey with Intrepid Travel. If you'd like to take a look, I think we had a piece about Kakadu has come up. Good weekend. It's all going on at the moment. This week, we're going to have a chat about Photo's No List for 2024, which is 10 destinations that you should consider visiting. And the point of the list is to address over-tourism and climate change. And, you know, looking at natural attractions that could use a break in order to heal and rejuvenate, cultural hotspots that are plagued with overcrowding, and locations around the world that are impacted by water crises.
Yeah, and Photo says it's not a boycott, ban or cancellation of any sort, but a call to travellers to consider wisely with the choices they make, which I think we are increasingly doing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, top of the list is Venice, which everybody's talking about. Residents have actually been pushed out of their apartments and piazzas to make way for eager tourists, as well as the increase in boats on the canals, which are causing the very foundations of the city to erode. So next year, Venice is going to be trialling a €5 charge to enter the city. And you've actually got a pre-book, which is, it's quite astonishing, isn't it? We enter we pay that to enter museums, but we're paying this to enter the city.
It's a shame that we've come to this, but I guess, it's inevitable, and having to charge tourists, because what else? There's few other ways really, to manage mass tourism. Personally, I don't actually like going to places that are overcrowded anyway, and I think most people, like I was saying before, are moving sort of along that way as well, particularly post-pandemic. So hopefully, having that small fee will actually move people to other areas, or just reduce the amount of people that are going there and save it. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? We won't have these remarkable places if we continue with over-tourism. Following Venice on the list is Athens, Greece, for fear that the surge of visitors, if it continues, then historic sites will culturally erode and physically disappear. That's shocking, isn't it, to think that we could just basically lose these ancient sites because of the fact that we're just all stomping around. To combat the volume of tourists, the Greek government did issue a new timed entry system for visits, which started this September, but it does still allow 20,000 visitors. So it's saying that's fewer than the 23,000 daily visitors at a peak tourist times, but that's still significant, isn't it?
I don't know, it kind of blows my mind that they have to cap it at 20,000 visitors. That's insane. It's actually an insane amount of people. A few Aussie faves are on the list too, Ha Long Bay in Vietnam and Koh Samui in Thailand, which we've obviously simply loved too hard. Ha Long Bay is being heavily impacted by rubbish and diesel in the water from tourists and a growing flotilla of fishing boats. And in Koh Samui, another water-related issue, tourists use 70% of available fresh water on the island, and that's just not sustainable for the local population.
The other thing is to consider going to places where you can stay at resorts who actually have great initiatives where you can give back, and there's obviously a lot of those doing it now. So it's worth looking, if you are going to these places, at where you're actually staying and what you can do to make sure that you, leave a light footprint or no footprint at all. And you can see the full list at photos.com, and we'll put the link in the show notes so you can assess where you're going and maybe make a more responsible choice.
Oh, good one. But on a more upbeat note, we have winners. Yay! Yay. Okay, so drum roll. Josie Kelsch from Adelaide and Caesar Anderson from Gippsland here in Victoria are the lucky winners of our giveaway with Lonely Planet, and they will receive a copy of the beautiful coffee table book, Best in Travel 2024. Yay! which we'll have sent out to you shortly. And if you didn't get a copy, no, sorry, you can always take a look at Lonely Planet's website and check out Best in Travel for some sensational photography and places where you should be considering travelling next year.
You're listening to The World Awaits. We'd love it if you could leave us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform. This week, I'm talking to Lianne Driessen of her family-owned business Sail Trilogy, Maui's first sailboat company, which has been operating in Maui for 50 years. Sail Trilogy were among the first responders when the devastating fires hit Maui just 12 weeks ago, helping rescue people who had jumped into the ocean to survive. We talk about that tragic day and Sail Trilogy's ongoing relief efforts to rebuild Maui to the beautiful holiday destination it once was.
Welcome to the show, Lianne.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a bit about your business and the background. And it's 50 years this year, I believe.
We just celebrated 50 years in July. I am a part of a family business. It's called Trilogy Excursions. We're a sailing boat company based here on Maui. It was started by my grandfather, uncle, father, and their immediate family over 50 years ago. Long story short, there is truly an epic tale. My grandfather was a charter boat captain in southeastern Alaska. He sunk his charter boat in the mid-60s and was not ready to retire. So he asked my dad, who was a young adult at the time, and his other son to help him rebuild his boat. It took them 2 years to build. When they were finished building, instead of going right back into production, they said, well, why don't we explore the oceans and sail? So they took to the open seas with my grandmother and my dad's sister and their nuclear family set sail for 2 years. They ended up going down the coast to Central and South America, the Galapagos Islands, Marquesas Island, and eventually landed in Hawaii, specifically on the island of Maui. And when my grandfather got there, he fell in love with not only Maui, but the other island of Lanai. And he said, what if we started doing day trips between Maui and Lanai and bringing guests on our boat as a way for them to experience what it was like cruising and being part of like a sailing family. And so what started off as just like a fun little dream turned into a reality, and they launched their first tour on July 5th, 1973, departing from Lahaina Harbor and going over to the island of Lanai for the day and providing breakfast, lunch, snacks and beverages. And honestly, 50 years later, not much has changed. We're still providing the same exceptional service, bringing people into our ohana, which is family, and giving them a really wonderful day out on the water with us.
Let's go back to 12 weeks ago when the fires, those devastating fires hit Maui. And tell me a bit about where you were and what the business was doing at the time.
Yeah, so on 8/8, I live in Lahaina. I lost my house in the fires, and so that morning at 4 a.m, the power had gone out, and I had a very busy work day. So my office, which is also Lahaina, all of Lahaina, the power was out. So I had to figure out how was I going to go to work because I had all these meetings stacked up. So I went to my parents' house. They have a house in Wailuku, which is on the other side of the mountain, that morning with my son because all the schools were canceled. So I didn't have a dramatic exit because at the time there was no fire at that point in time. It was just very severe winds, very, very severe winds early on. Palm trees were already down. Obviously, the power lines were down. So there was already a lot of disaster happening in that early morning timing. And then so throughout the day, I was just triaging. I was doing my meetings, but triaging with our ops team on tours. Like, are we canceling tomorrow? How are we going to move our guests? What about catering? And just like doing logistics up until 3 p.m. And at that point, my husband, who was still in Lahaina with my son, who was not yet 3 years old, he had called me and he was like, hey, you should come back to Lahaina because we want, we should all stay together as a family. And there was still no threat about a fire at that point. So I said, okay, I guess I'll do that. That makes sense. So I was basically getting into my car, and our company president, I called him because I knew he was in Lahaina. And I was like, hey, I'm I'm coming back to Lahaina. I know Lahaina's been out of power for, 8 hours. Do you want me to bring any food or, lunch for people? And then he was the one that was like, don't come. There's a fire started. The wind alone is so dangerous. Like, you're just driving would be so dumb. Don't come back to Lahaina. When I called my husband, I conveyed that to him. And then he also confirmed, yes, there is a fire. He could see it from our house. And at the time, the winds were blowing in the opposite direction of our home. So he didn't feel like it was an immediate threat. And then we just kept in touch over the next half an hour. And then the last correspondence I had with him was around 4:30. And he said that firemen had come to our neighborhood and told people to wear life jackets and get wet towels and run to the beach if the fire gets any closer. And that was literally like the last I heard from my husband. Then the phones cut off. And I sat there with like just the most panicky, even retelling it just gives me all the feels, because it was such a scary moment to say, like, that's a terrible plan. Like, that's a terrible, like, I don't like that plan. Like, that's not reassuring to me. And the issue with what was happening in Lahaina when the fires came so quickly were that the road, I mean, we're a very small town and there's not a lot of, in and out. And all the roads were blocked. So there was really a hard, like, no one was able to just like get out of their neighborhoods easily or get out of Lahaina for that fact. So it took, luckily my husband and the rest of our little community, we lived right across from the beach. They were able to punch their way through a fire gate and then drive over live wires on that were down power lines. And then they were able to escape. And luckily he didn't have to jump in the ocean with our son. And I was reunited with him later that night. It was about 3 hours of not hearing from him. And it was scary 3 hours of my life.
Yeah, I can't even imagine having such a young child, that the trauma involved with that. And Sail Trilogy was involved in actually pulling people from the ocean because people were jumping into the ocean to escape.
So we, the company president, whose name's Gabe, who I spoke of earlier, he was already in Lahaina. He actually gave his truck to a family that didn't have a car. So they were able to escape. And then he ran into the harbor while it was on fire to rescue one of our boats that was in the harbor itself. So he was able to get that boat out of the harbor. And because there was no cell service happening, he was able to get far enough out into the channel where he could get cell service again. And so he was reporting back to us what was happening. So then that triggered our captains, my brother included, who they lived in Wailuku, which is Central Valley of Maui. They jumped on our boats out of Maui Harbor and got from my cousin Denver, who's also a boat captain, my brother, who is a boat captain, and our fleet manager, one of our other captains who had just come off a trip that morning, actually, Captain Travis. So they rallied together, a group of Trilogy employees, and jumped on the boat and went straight to Lahaina. We're able to liaison with the Coast Guard. So the Coast Guard did ask for our help. It wasn't just us showing up unannounced to try to save people. So we would have done that, but there was some organization in that beginning part. And so we were working with the Coast Guard. Captain Travis was one of our employees that did go to shore and surf people back out to our boat so that we could get them to safety. So that was a great,
remarkable. And then following that, so what happened at you were reunited with your family. Tell me a bit about what happened after that.
Oh man, it was just there was so much adrenaline for across the spectrum of all the employees involved. We had 32 employees, including myself, that lost a home that evening, that escaped the fires. And the next morning, we all met at Gabe's house, and we just, the people who were there, it was just like a company meeting, like show up if you're able to. So we showed up, and we just went into kind of instant relief and reaction mode. Like, how can we help? What can we do to get people out of Lahaina, to get people reunited with family, to get them food, to get them water? I mean, because they'd already been out of electricity for all of this time. And so a lot of people, I mean, Lahaina itself was done. There was nothing there. There was no light. There was nothing there. A lot of the people were either they either escaped north to Kaanapali, Nakini, Kahana, or they escaped south out towards Wailuku and then eventually Wailea side. That's where they were living. So we had family, or employees that had were displaced from their family, that were stuck on Kaanapali. So that was one of the first things we did. We took our boat and we asked. I mean, again, it was hard because no one had cell service still. So we were trying to reach people who were on the north side of Kaanapali and beyond, letting them know, hey, we're coming with our boat. Whoever needs to ride back out to Maui, like, jump on. We're going to be bringing relief. We started this like Insta convoy. We worked with Maui Blue Co., one of the local restaurants here. And just, I mean, it was really incredible because, like, we're not first responders, you know, we're not trained to manage crisis events like this. So it was like this incredible group effort, just first within our company, but then, I mean, the entire Maui community showed up so fast. And it was beautiful. Yeah. Everyone, just whether it was like a family donating a bag of clothes to church organizations going, starting to like get bedding together and food and rice and water and gasoline. People needed the gas or propane, and just within, I'd say, within that first day, essential needs were being met immediately. So that was really cool to be a part of.
And so what's happening now? So, and you started up a number of initiatives to support people. Tell us a little bit about that and about what the situation is like right now.
So we immediately, I mean, just for our company, we started a GoFundMe that was to help our employees who were directly affected by the fires, and then and also other fire survivors outside of our employee pools that would need help. And so many of our amazing, 50 years of sailing really garnered a lot of wonderful patrons that just generously donated to that fund. So that's something we started out there at Gate. And then we also worked with Global Empowerment Mission, which is a 501c3, and they are known to go into these areas that have extreme need and crisis situations, and just be boots on the ground and set up infrastructure quickly. So it was great that we were able to connect with them and start working on distribution centers and convoys, again, getting relief into the burn zone and beyond, and also starting to try to figure out longer-term plans for just financial assistance and aid. So currently, under that program, we're actually helping local Lahaina surf shop owners rebuild their business. We're finding them spaces to rent outside of, obviously Lahaina's not an option anymore. So looking at Kihei and Ranbuku area, and then giving them the resources to begin building up their business again. We also went and bought small tools for a bunch of the handymen that, that's their livelihood, and they couldn't start their business after they lost everything. So that's some of the money that we've raised has gone to directly help families and businesses try to get back on their feet. We also did a program where obviously we had to cancel, almost a month of tours out right after the fires. And we asked our guests, we gave them the option, instead of canceling and receiving a full refund, if they would consider donating their tour to a Lahaina family or a first responder, knowing that after initial essential needs were met, healing is going to take a while. It's not people, their attention is so focused in the direct aftermath of a disaster, but then people tend to forget. It's been 12 weeks and it's no longer in the media, and it's no longer, if you're not here in Maui, people probably are like, oh yeah, that happened, and they moved on with their lives. But the families here are still impacted. They're still suffering. And it's a beautiful thing that we can provide some small, I mean, it's not, unfortunately, I can't buy everyone a house. That would be the ultimate need that needs to get met. But getting a family out on the water to have ocean healing, to have a day where they can feel normal and be served food and just the ocean is so healing. So that's been awesome that a lot of our guests actually chose to donate their tour to a local Maui family or a first responder family and be able to give about 10 tours a week out to the fire survivors and their families to offer that healing.
And amazing how much you're doing, given you lost your own house as well. I mean, where are you living now?
Well, yeah, it's been it's really devastating. It's hard to kind of express or the feeling of just, when I left that morning, never in a million years would have thought that was the last time I'm walking out my door. I'm living with my husband and my 2 sons. We are all living with my parents. So we are in Kula, which is very far from Lahaina. And luckily we have that as an option. I feel very fortunate that we do have family here, that we have a place to be while we figure out the next step. Others are not as fortunate. And one of our dearest friends and neighbors, we kind of started duplex actually. After 3 days, they left. They didn't have the option to stay. There was no affordable rentals, and they went back to where their parents are from, where they could have that assistance in figuring out how they were going to recover as well. And a lot of families were faced with that decision of having to leave as they figured it out, because it's not, Lahaina's not getting rebuilt next year. It's going to be a very long journey, and there needs to be assistance in around which is where we're at right now. There's, our government needs to really wake up to how they can best help the situation, which would just be allowing permitting processes to go through and housing to be built. So.
And what can travelers do to, I mean, can they, obviously you're still taking people out now, and where can they go, or how do they come to see you and help and support local tour operators like yourselves?
Thank you. I mean, that's like the biggest thing. It's just, I know in the beginning there was a sentiment like, don't come to Maui. That's not true. Maui is very open. Maui needs visitors. I need visitors here. Our boat company needs that. We employ, pre-fires, we had 160 employees. We are trying to retain every employee we can, and the only way we can do that is if our boats continue to sail. So the more people that come to visit and spend their money here, enjoying their vacation, go out to that restaurant, do your activity, the better it is for Maui's recovery overall. I would petition to choose to stay at a hotel versus a VRBO, as those are kind of in a position of hoping to house our local resident here. But regardless, come to Maui. It's huge. It's a big island. There's lots to do here. Lahaina was a very small part of our island. It's a very important and beautiful part of our island, and my heart aches every day for that loss. But there's still a lot to see and explore and enjoy, and there's a lot of businesses that need people to come to visit them. So.
Thank you so much. It's so great to hear about your journey and the incredible efforts that the company's gone to assist. And I know lots of Australians coming to Maui, will want to help and support businesses like yourself. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for making time and keeping this on people's radar. We look forward to sailing with you soon.
Their commitment to Maui's recovery is truly remarkable, and if you want to keep up to date with the relief efforts, go to sailtrilogy.com and scroll down to their blog, and we'll put links in the show notes at theworldawaits.au.
Our tip this week is about the most common claims when travelling to Indonesia and the things you need to know that could make claiming on your travel insurance easier should it happen to you.
So Southern Cross Travel Insurance says its most common claims include Bali belly and lost phones. I think I've had both of those. And monkey-related claims make up 1% of total claims.
I know I shouldn't laugh, but it just reminds me of when I was in Sri Lanka, staying at Anantara Tangal in Sri Lanka's south, and I was trying to photograph these monkeys, and I was chased down the pathway by one. I've probably got footage of it somewhere, and my husband couldn't stop laughing. But you do have to be a bit more responsible, and not get too close. I didn't think I was actually particularly close, but clearly this monkey wasn't happy with me.
I actually shared a couple of weeks ago when you were off with Alistair, we were talking about a monkey who crapped in my handbag. Because I had no bananas in it. He's like, "Dad, what's this banana-free zone hanging off this woman's arm?" And he ran on the tree above me, and I'm sure he aimed. And oh my God, the smell of monkey poo is horrific. No, so don't get too close to monkeys. Now back to the serious stuff. Southern Cross says the average claim insurance costs in Indonesia has risen by 44% since 2019. And as well as Aussie travellers claiming medical treatment for Bali belly and for lost phones, other claims include requests to cover reef and surfing cuts. And over the past 5 years, Southern Cross has paid almost $17,000 in claims to Australian travellers who've had their belongings stolen by monkeys in Bali.
I'm sorry, I find it really funny. It's just because it's so foreign to us, I guess, I mean, having your belongings stolen by monkeys is kind of funny. But it wouldn't be if it was you, and you had important belongings obviously stolen. Anyway, so what can you do to make claiming on your travel insurance easier? Southern Cross CEO Joe McCauley says, firstly, lost or stolen items must be reported to the police as soon as possible. And for any claims relating to a lost or stolen mobile phone or device with phone capabilities, you must block the International Mobile Equipment Identity. I didn't know about this. It's the IMEI. Yeah, which you probably knew about when your phone got stolen. And it says by contacting your service provider and providing proof this has been done. There's a unique digit number included on each handset. So she says they recommend keeping a record of the number so you can access it easily and should your phone be lost or stolen. And it can also be accessed, though, from an Apple iCloud account and Google's Find My Device service if your devices have been linked properly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I did when my phone was in London. Yes. And also, if you leave your property unattended in your beach bag while you take a dip and somebody takes the opportunity to nick your property, you might find yourself unable to claim for your losses. So keep that one in mind.
You're listening to The World Awaits. We'd love it if you could leave us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform.
My guest this week is Carissa Nimah, an Australian whose job it is to promote travel to Bhutan, the tiny Buddhist kingdom in the East Himalayas. She talks about the latest openings in Bhutan and the main reason people choose to travel there. Carissa, thank you so much for joining us on The World Awaits. It's so great to have you in dialing in from Bhutan.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me to be on the show.
Look, now you're a former journalist and by way of Dubai and Bangkok, and you now live in Thimphu, which is the Kingdom of Bhutan, and as its chief marketing officer. How is life in Bhutan? I imagine there's not that many expats there in the country.
No, there's not. There's actually the number is only around 45 expats that live and work here. So it's quite a small community. So every time I go out on a Friday night, I run into everyone I know, which is great.
Hang on, this is in the whole country.
Yeah. Bhutan is it's a small country. There's only around 700,000 people, just a bit more than that, and not very many expats. So I'm really lucky. There's only a handful of Aussies here, so we know each other really well. And yeah, I'm really lucky to be here. Life is great. It's definitely a surreal experience being here. It's I open my doors in the morning and I see the giant Buddha statue in front of me and prayer flags all around and zongs and temples. So I feel a long way from home.
Unbelievable. Well, what's the main reason that people go to Bhutan as travelers? Like, what do you go there for? Do you go there for the spirituality, for the mountains, for the food?
Yeah.
Do you go there for the food?
The food is actually really nice. I was really worried before moving here what I would eat, and it's actually a really pleasant surprise. It's pretty healthy. A lot of things are grown locally. They don't use pesticides or chemicals, so that's really great. It's there. You get your momos, you get your curries, and even though there's influences from the neighbors, it's remained to very kind of authentic foods. But people come to Bhutan, as you said, for spirituality, for hiking, for a lot of culture, and also for transformation. Generally, people, when they visit Bhutan, something kind of changes. It's one of these destinations that you come to really reflect on your life, on yourself. So it's a really, I would say, authentic, very, very different destination to visit.
I guess because, if there's only 45 expats, that is the complete opposite of somewhere like, let's say, the United Arab Emirates. In Dubai, there's something like, it's something like 15% of the population is Emirati, and you rarely meet the people of, the nationals of that country. And it's the complete opposite in Bhutan, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I was lucky enough to spend a decade in the Emirates as well. So I've gone from one extreme to the other. But being here means that I've been really lucky to make a lot of local friends. So that's great, because I can really then get under the skin of the culture and learn a lot about Bhutan, which is so much, I would say it's a very lucky experience, because when you come as a tourist, it's one thing, but when you actually live here and you're part of the ceremonies and the traditions, that's a completely different experience.
Well, Bhutan's one of the things that, the hallmark of Bhutan is, particularly in the last decade, it's becoming renowned for having really high-end experiences, hotels such as, like Amman has several properties there. So who's visiting Bhutan?
Yeah, you're right. Bhutan does have a lot of high-end property. So as you said, Amman has actually 5 lodges here. Six Senses has 5.
That's kind of crazy.
It's crazy, yeah, like for a small country. But the thing is, each lodge is quite small. They only have, 10 to 15 rooms. And then when people come to Bhutan, it's always a journey. So you don't come and you don't stay in one destination. You go on a journey through the country. So the type of people visiting it's a real mix. It is a high-end, we get a lot of high-end guests who like to stay in these high-end luxury properties, but at the same time, it's people who want to experience this authentic place that's really preserved in time. Next year in 2024 is 50 years of Bhutan tourism. So it's only been 50 years since foreign tourists have been coming here. So the country's really extremely authentic. It hasn't been, I would say, ruined by, mass tourism. So you get people coming here who want to have like a very authentic holiday, adventure seekers, people who want to learn more about sustainability, about spiritual tourism. So there's quite a lot of different audience profiles, I would have to say.
Yeah, it is. That is, that 50-year anniversary, amazingly. I'd read that when Bhutan first opened in 1974 to foreign tourists, it had 300 visitors, which seems just gorgeous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But then it really ramped up, and like 2019, which was a boom year for tourism around the world, it had 300,000 visitors. Is it going to keep that exponential growth? That was 15% increase of tourism, and yet Bhutan has been so careful, I think, in managing its tourism. Is it going to keep that enormous growth?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's one that Bhutan is kind of really carefully considering. So you're right. In 2019, there was around 380,000 tourists a year, which by a country's standards is actually, by most countries, it's pretty small. However, this year in 2023, we're actually only going to have around 100,000. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One reason is after the pandemic, Bhutan completely revised its tourism strategy. So as you may know, Bhutan charges a daily fee, which is called the Sustainable Development Fee. And it's Bhutan, you could say it's a tourism tax. And this is the highest tourism tax in the world. So Bhutan charges $100 per day for guests as a tourism tax. So that doesn't include your meals, your accommodation. That's just the fee to be here. But this fee is basically an extremely important part of Bhutan's development. It funds things like all the conservation work that Bhutan does, and it is a very, very sustainable destination. All the sustainable projects, it funds free healthcare and education for all the Bhutanese, infrastructure upgrades, training of and upgrading the skills of the youth. So I think once people understand where that money goes and why it's important, you're basically investing in Bhutan's future and development. Then generally people are okay with that. And it also means that Bhutan has a real focus on ensuring an excellent guest experience, because we know that when people come here, they have very high expectations after paying that money. But to go back to the question, Bhutan's actually always had this strategy, which is high value, low volume. That's the tourism strategy. So ever since it opened its doors to tourism in 1974, there's always been this fee. But after the pandemic, the fee increased. So it went from $65 a day, and now it's $100 a day. So that's one reason why there's less tourists this year. The second reason is, of course, after COVID, Bhutan opened quite late, only in September last year. So it's taken a bit of time for people to come back and to explore the destination. The idea is that every year the numbers will gradually increase. But as you rightly said, the overall focus is it's a very careful approach to tourism. Bhutan likes to do things very carefully and very sustainably. It's not a mass tourism destination, and it doesn't want to be.
Well, I mean, it has a population of only 750,000 people. So if you had 300,000 tourists, I mean, that's half the entire population of the country. And, incredibly, it's wedged between, it's got China on one side and India on the other. It's in between two incredible superpowers. And maintaining, this is the country that has its own gross national happiness index. And as you say, it's very careful and considered in the things that it does. Are people actually happy in Bhutan?
So I would say overall, yes. I mean, Bhutan is not immune to a range of domestic issues and challenges that it has to solve. In fact, you've probably heard that there's quite a lot of Bhutanese youth that are, outgoing to Australia. Australia is the number one choice for Bhutanese, which is really, it is actually. So they definitely have their own domestic challenges, but overall, I would say yes, they are. And the reason being, I think Bhutanese have a very good balance of life. So they have this concept of gross national happiness, and basically this is built on 4 pillars. And some of these things mean that Bhutanese get free education, they get free healthcare, they have a stable government, a stable society. So I feel like they actually, and Bhutanese are, from what I've seen, they have a very good work-life balance. So they know how to enjoy their life. They also have this beautiful environment, clean air. So they have the kind of foundations of what they need to have a happy life. So yes, overall, I would say yes, they are.
Yeah, I mean, it is a spectacular country. When I visited years ago, it was just incredible. And just the idea that, you are in the Himalayas. One of the things that people want to do is hike. But then they've also said, well, this is a sacred mountain, so you can't hike it. So that's off limits. They've been very strong in the face of otherwise, of something that would be, the equivalent of an Everest. And I think that they've looked at their neighbours and decided possibly they see how it works in other countries and decide how it's going to work for them. So it's growing its tourism and infrastructure. What new developments are coming up in Bhutan over the next few years?
So, as you said, there is a focus on building new tourism infrastructure, whether that's actual, hardware or software, for instance, experiences. So just recently, the government's introduced a couple of new guest experiences, such as fishing, fly fishing, fishing for golden mahseer, of course, on a catch and release basis. There's night river rafting coming up soon. There are, and other kind of tourism experiences. There's also events and activities. So, for instance, you've probably heard about the Trans-Bhutan Trail. This is a hiking adventure that goes from east to west of the country, across the whole country. If you did end to end, it takes around 30 to 40 days to complete. And this was, I love this trail because this was the old human highway of Bhutan. So Bhutan only got a lot of cars and roads really in the 60s, 50s, 60s. So it was, before that, people moved around on foot across the country. So this Trans-Bhutan Trail was renovated to, along the way, there's QR codes and there's different places you can visit that tells the story of this, of Bhutan, which is fascinating. There's the snowman race, which is along the snowman track, which is meant to be one of the hardest treks in the world.
Oh, it looks it looks terrifying. Absolutely,
it's terrifying. It's really high. It's really hard. And then, of course, on the government side, the government's going through this process of transformation at the moment. And this is basically about bringing Bhutan a bit more forward into the 21st century. So Bhutan is a very cultural, it's a very traditional society, but at the same time, there's a lot of efforts underway to kind of push it forward towards the future to make sure that it can compete effectively. So there's, digital transformation. His Majesty has a lot of kind of big visionary projects on the horizon. Of course, there's new hotels that we've heard are coming soon. And of course, the focus still remains on this high value, low volume tourism strategy and the protection of the environment, because sustainability is really key to Bhutan's strategy as well.
So with that, with that tax on top of it and the overlay of sustainability, is it an expensive destination to visit?
I would say yes and no. Yes, because you've got the daily fee, which could be, could be off-putting. However, on the other hand, Bhutan is a destination that can be very affordable if you, to meet all budgets. So if you come here and you want to stay in this high-end 5-star properties, yes, it's going to be an expensive destination, but it would be the same as if you go somewhere like Maldives or any other kind of luxury destination. On the other hand, if you come here and you want to have a more authentic experience and stay in Bhutanese run 3-star hotels, which are really nice, by the way, some of them are really, really nice. They are usually less than about $100 a night. You can also stay in homestays, which personally, this is something I love doing with my family. We move around and explore the homestays, because when you stay in a Bhutanese homestay, you get to meet the family. And by the way, the education system in Bhutan is in English. So most people are really fluent in English. So it's very easy to communicate, unlike a lot of other places in Asia. So you'll stay with the family, you'll talk to the family. They'll usually teach you how to cook, or they'll cook for you. You can make the local dish, imadatsi, chili and cheese. They'll take you for a walk around their property or their village. And you really get this authentic experience. And these homestays are very, very affordable. So, sometimes $20 to $30 or $50 a night, including your meal. So I think to answer your question, Bhutan is as you make it. So you can either come here and have a super luxury experience and travel by helicopter to see all these beautiful places, or you can go really authentic and then it's not an expensive destination.
Yeah, I have stayed in homestays actually in Bhutan, and I thought they were just magical experiences, and that is incredibly affordable as well. So I think you've reignited my desire to go back to Bhutan. Thank you very much for that. It's just majestic. It's an astonishing country, and then it's one of those places you have the chance to appreciate genuine silence and natural beauty that has not been transformed. And Bhutanese people are incredible walkers as well. Like they're just
that's so good. They're really they're really hardy and sturdy people, so they can hike like you can't imagine. I mean, because I think it's in their genes, right? They've been hiking
It really
so long,
is.
but they're fantastic.
Now, look, I'm going to ask you the last question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, and it may come from Bhutan, it may come from one of the many other countries that you've lived in. What is your most bizarre travel experience?
Oh, so good question. I was really racking my brains trying to think about this. I've been to a lot of places and I've had a lot of bizarre experiences, but probably my most bizarre travel experience in my former job a long time ago when I was actually based in Dubai. I used to work for an American defense logistics company. So it was providing food and fuel to the Australians in combat zones and the Americans and the British and the Allied forces, basically. And one of my most bizarre travel experiences was when I had to host a press trip to visit Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
So that was really interesting because we had, there were things like tactical landings in the plane, which meant the plane had to descend really quickly and turn off all the lights. And, just hosting press around a military base, which was really fascinating. And going to the gym there, they have these huge gyms to keep all the army fit and, motivated. And we were kind of, civilians in this gym, and we were surrounded by hundreds of these really fit army people, which was fantastic, but also very, very bizarre. But it was an amazing experience. But yeah, quite bizarre.
Unbelievable. That sounds absolutely fantastic. I think you've taken us from Afghanistan to Bhutan in a really fascinating interview. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll include the details on Bhutan tourism in the trip notes as well. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on The World Awaits.
That was Carissa Nimah from Bhutan Tourism. To learn more about this incredible destination, visit bhutan.travel.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirsty?
I'm at Kirsty Writes on Instagram. That's KIRSTIE Writes, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.